I'd like to follow up on some of the things that Jonathan Godfrey has said. And the thing about what it is to be a tech LaTeX developer and what it is to be an R developer is, I think, very important. I remember Don Knuth saying somewhere that he wanted to write just a typesetting language. Stuff comes in and it comes out typeset. And users started asking for features that would be added to the macro programming language, and it sort of got a bit bigger and a bit bigger and a bit bigger. But he said that if there was a single well-adopted universal scripting language that was widely used, he would have used that instead. And RStudio and R Markdown use Pandoc as part of the backend. And Pandoc is a sort of universal thing for text processing. It's one of the sort of universal text processing tools, along with the Unix utilities like grep and that sort of thing. And so they have the benefit of being widely used. So and the skills in knowing regular expressions or Pandoc are transferable skills in the sense that you can use them in different settings. Whereas knowing how to do tech macro programming is not a transferable skill in that same sort of way. And that immediately cuts down the size of the community. First of all, because it cuts down it confines yourself to the people doing typesetting. And then within that, it confines themselves to the people who are willing to become experts. There's a sort of very limited market. That's the point. There's a very limited market. Now, it seems to me that RStudio, and Jonathan said this quite well, was that RStudio has got a lot of stuff behind it. And even though blind people may not use RStudio, they certainly benefit from the stuff behind it. And when you think about it, tech is a typesetting program, the stuff that Don Knuth wrote, that's back-end software. You don't issue raw typesetting instructions very often, except the letter A always typesets the letter A and that sort of thing. But font changing instructions and all sorts of other things, and the spacing instructions, you use macros for that. So tech is a piece of back-end software, and a very solid and reliable piece is too. Whereas LaTeX is front-end software. And it's substantially a text processing language together with the typesetting configuration language. That's roughly what it is, I think. And it suffers from being specialized. So the LaTeX input syntax, if it were formalized, you could transform it using other tools. You don't have to use LaTeX macros to do your transformations. And that seems to me part of the reason why the tech community has become a bit isolated and inward, is that when it started, tech was the whole world. It was the only program you could run. You couldn't run another program at the same time, or at least I couldn't, or it's difficult. And we sort of huddle together for safety. So the thing about tech is you always got the same results, but if you use another piece of software, that goes out of the window. And we have, I think, to learn from what's gone on in R, and there's been a flourishing and a succession of change that's been very good. Whereas there's been slow change in the tech LaTeX community. The big changes, I think, are Tech Live, well, CTAN, of course, that's some time ago, Tech Live, TIGS, MIGTech, MathJax, LaTeX 209, well, that's a long time ago. So in the last 10, 15 years, I'm hard pressed to think of any big changes apart from the flourishing of MathJax. I might have missed something. TIX, I think, is a big change, a big accomplishment. MIPTEC is a continuing accomplishment. But all these are better ways of doing the same thing. They're not ways of doing new things better. I'm wondering a bit. I'll stop because I'm wondering.
I know the idea of you have to use a macro to do things. Well, that's fine. You do exactly the same thing in Markdown, but in reality, it's the way you touch those macros that is so different. You know, in HTML, you seldom worry about things like line spacing. You just go and grab someone else's CSS file. Or you end up with the one that you like from the wide range of things that someone else has already put together, and you go, well, that's the one I'm going to use forever. And so you never worry about that sort of thing ever again. But that's what we did in LaTeX as well when I was using it all the time. You got the standard you wanted for all of the documents that you were going to give to students, and you just recycled it over and over again. But the verbosity of the preamble to get to that point before you start writing any content was always sort of under your nose unless you were smart enough to know how to hide it from people. And I think therein lies the difference. Everything could have been out of the preamble apart from a couple of lines. You know, you need a document class and then one input line before you go begin document. I think that's all you need, so that you've got everything about the style and everything else is hidden away. And so if we were ever to say to our students, you're going to write everything in LaTeX, that's what we would be providing them with. So it's almost like it's a marketing plan and a presentation plan that has limited the uptake of LaTeX. R Markdown and RStudio have really captured what it is that is important to the people we are serving, and how do we make it easier and easier and easier for those people to get what they want in such a way that they don't keep asking us questions and making more work for us. And I'm slightly cynical in that respect, but that's what they've done. And it's not just limited to the R Markdown tools, but even the tools that help manipulate data, present data, and are being developed in a way to make the life of the user simpler.